Mommy, look. It's a pig.
My daughter pointed at my sister, the bride, and exclaimed, "Sweetie, please stop." I hurriedly intervened, lifting my daughter into my arms to prevent any further outbursts. The relatives and acquaintances gathered at the wedding venue chuckled at the innocent mischief, seemingly unfazed. "Please don't say that."
But,
Although my relationship with my sister had always been strained, I wanted her to start her new life on a positive note after this special day. But my conscience shattered into pieces when my daughter innocently uttered those words. Let's rewind a bit. I'm Brenda, a 33-year-old stay-at-home mom. We live in a family-friendly apartment with my husband, Robert, and our daughter, Mia. Robert and I got married 8 years ago, and 3 years later, I became pregnant and gave birth. Robert dotes on our daughter. While some fathers might focus solely on work, Robert was different. He took paternity leave, which was rare at the time, and was fully involved in caring for our daughter. From diaper changes to preparing milk and baby food and even soothing nighttime crying. He handled it all flawlessly. Even now, as our daughter has grown, he continues to be an excellent caregiver, capable of looking after her even when I'm not around. Every time I see Robert bonding with our daughter, I'm reminded of how lucky I am to have married him. One day, Robert returned home from work with a beaming smile. When I asked, "Did something good happen?" he replied,
Actually, I'm getting promoted soon. And I'll finally get to participate in a project I've wanted to be part of for a while.
"Wow, that's amazing. You've been working so hard lately. Congratulations." I congratulated Robert, and our daughter chimed in,
Daddy, you're awesome.
clapping her little hands with a smile. Robert gently patted her head and said,
I can give my best because of you too. Thank you always.
It was a picture-perfect marriage. However, there was one concern in our seemingly idyllic life: Robert's personality. He was kind-hearted, not just to family but to everyone. While it's undoubtedly a good trait, it sometimes borders on being a people-pleaser. On top of that, he could be easily influenced. Shortly after we got married, his accommodating nature led to a minor incident. Robert's college female friend unexpectedly showed up at our home. It turned out that Robert had been advising her, which caused the situation. Robert had said things like, "I'm here to listen anytime," or "lean on me when things get tough." True to his words, she came all the way to my house. At that moment, I was also at home, so I asked her to leave right away. But if I hadn't been there, Robert probably would have let her in. Maybe she would have pushed for a closer relationship. After the female friend left, I had given Robert a gentle warning, but he didn't seem to grasp what was wrong. That's why I worry sometimes that the same situation might happen again. It's precisely because I care about Robert. One day, after driving my daughter to kindergarten, I was cleaning the living room. My phone, which was on the dining table, started vibrating. I turned off the vacuum cleaner and checked. There was an email. The sender was my sister, who is 2 years older than me. What? No way. I couldn't help but exclaim. After all, my sister and I hadn't communicated for several years. To receive an email from her out of the blue felt like an emergency situation. I quickly opened the email. To my surprise, it was an apology letter. My sister, who is beautiful but has always been mean since childhood, treated me poorly. She would assign me homework or household chores, takeaway games I bought with my allowance, and even once stole my first boyfriend in high school. That's why I've kept minimal contact with her. The last time we interacted was when I invited her to my wedding. Now, out of the blue, she writes, "Sincere apologies for everything. I'd like to apologize in person." I wondered what game she was playing. Honestly, part of me thought, why bother now? On the other hand, we're both adults, and while we may not become close, perhaps we can have a civil relationship. After much contemplation, I finally decided to reply, writing and rewriting the message several times. In the end, I agreed to meet her at my place this coming Sunday. On that day, when I saw my sister after several years, she was still as beautiful as ever. Not trying to look younger, but with a beauty befitting her age.
Brenda, it's been a while. Thanks for inviting me today. Here's a little gift.
She smiled and handed me a cake box. I ushered her into the living room and guided her to the sofa. Then, I went to make coffee and returned to her side.
Thank you. Where's Mia and Robert?
She glanced around nervously. They're at the park right now, playing. They should be back soon. As I replied, she took a sip of her coffee. Suddenly, she turned to me, looking tense, and began apologizing.
I'm truly sorry for being mean all these years. I've reflected a lot. It might seem late, but I realized if I don't apologize now, I'll regret it for the rest of my life.
Come on, let's leave the past behind. As I said, her expression softened. It's okay. Water under the bridge. Let's keep in touch from now on. My words seemed to put her at ease. And there, my daughter and Robert returned from the park.
I'm back. Oh, it's been a while since the wedding, hasn't it? Please make yourself at home.
I had explained the situation to Robert on the day my sister contacted me. As for my daughter, I had simply told her that her aunt was coming over to play.
Hello. Hey, let's play house together. I'll be a mom.
Despite meeting for the first time, my daughter seemed to take a liking to my sister and invited her to play. My sister readily agreed.
Sure, let's play.
I had worried about shyness, but it turned out there was no issue at all. Later, the four of us enjoyed a pleasant time while eating the cake my sister had brought. I couldn't help but think that we should have reconciled sooner. Time had somehow slipped past, and it was already past 3 p.m.
I'm getting sleepy.
She had been playing energetically until just now, so it was only natural.
Let's take a nap then. Brenda, I'll put her to sleep.
Robert said this, but our daughter shook her head.
Today, I want mommy to pat my head, not daddy.
It's unusual, but sure. Mommy will give you some head pats. Usually, Robert handled bedtime, but occasionally, she sought comfort from me like this. Perhaps she was in that mood today. Leaving Robert and my sister in the living room, I led my daughter to the bedroom. Within minutes, she was already peacefully asleep, her breathing steady. I watched her sleeping face for a few more minutes. After making sure not to wake my daughter, I quietly left the bedroom and returned to the living room. Robert and my sister were chatting while watching a rerun of a variety show.
Oh, you're back. Well, Mia seems to be asleep, so I'll head home.
Really? Since you're here, why not stay for dinner?
Actually, I have something to do later. But let's plan another get-together sometime.
With that, my sister left gracefully. It felt good to know we were building a positive relationship. About a week after my sister visited, I received a call from a local friend. We regularly kept in touch, but this time, she invited me on a trip. It was in celebration of my upcoming birthday. Of course, I wanted to go. While we'd taken family trips since Mia was born, I hadn't gone on a trip with friends. Even though Robert assured me he could handle Mia for a whole day, I hesitated to burden him, and honestly, I felt anxious about being away from my daughter. After much deliberation, I decided to put off my response temporarily. Then, I mustered the courage to consult Robert.
Huh? A trip? That's great. Go ahead. I'll take care of Mia.
But really? The destination is quite far. It's a 2-night, 3-day trip. Can you really take time off work? I expressed my concern, and Robert shook his head.
No worries. I can take time off. Besides, I've been pestered by my boss to use my paid leave. So go ahead.
Relieved by his words, I embarked on a 2-night, 3-day trip with my friends a month later. The trip was delightful. It felt like I was reliving my single days, enjoying food, sightseeing, and everything. When I returned, Robert and Mia warmly welcomed me. While I was away, they dined out and explored shopping malls, seemingly having a great time. I was relieved that everything went smoothly. As I organized my suitcase from the trip, my sister called. Although we hadn't met in person since her visit to my home, we occasionally exchanged emails. Hello, what's up?
Sorry to call at this hour. I have something exciting to share.
Her voice sounded jubilant. It seemed like good news.
Actually, I'm getting married to the person I've been dating. We're having the wedding in 3 months, and I'd love for Brenda, Robert, and Mia to be there.
Wow. Congratulations. We'll definitely be there. I remember her mentioning a serious relationship during our last meeting.
Thank you. I'll let you know the exact dates later. Bye.
With that, she hung up. Clearly, she was overjoyed about the proposal. I immediately told Robert and Mia about my sister's upcoming wedding. Both of them were genuinely thrilled, treating it as their own celebration. While I didn't think my young daughter fully understood, her happy expression said it all. Over the next few weeks, Robert's work suddenly became hectic. He had rarely worked overtime before, but now he was doing extra hours and even working on weekends. He explained that he'd been promoted and was joining a new project, so it was unavoidable. Despite this, Robert still made sure I had time to myself. It was a kind gesture, but I worried about the burden on him, juggling work and taking care of Mia. When I expressed my concerns, Robert smiled gently and said,
Being with Mia rejuvenates me. Plus, I can focus on work because you're holding down the fort. Sometimes, I want you to take a break.
Was there a better husband and father out there? I truly felt fortunate to have Robert by my side. At that moment, I believed it wholeheartedly. One day, my daughter wore an unusual frown. Concerned, I asked her what was wrong, and she said,
I want to play with Daddy. He never plays with me.
It's true that the frequency of their playtime had decreased, but even when I was away, they should have spent time together. Understanding the situation might be challenging for my 5-year-old daughter. Well, you see, Daddy works hard for Mommy and Mia. So even if he can't play a lot, you shouldn't be selfish. Remember how you both play pretend together when I'm not around? As I explained this, my daughter made a strange face. Then, as if wanting to say something, she mumbled, ultimately saying,
"It's nothing."
She pulled a nearby towel over her head and fell asleep. I thought the terrible twos were over, but maybe not. Since that day, neither my daughter nor I mentioned the issue of Daddy not playing with her. And then, after some time, it was finally my sister's wedding day. Our whole family attended. My daughter was excited, dressed in a beautiful dress. I hoped she'd stay quiet during the ceremony. The venue was filled with our relatives, the groom's relatives, and friends and colleagues from both sides. Everyone sat expectantly on the long chairs next to the chapel, waiting for the main event. The groom finally appeared, a handsome man working for a renowned company. Then, at last, my sister, the bride, entered. Escorted by our teary-eyed father, she took that decisive step forward.
Ah, a pig.
As soon as my daughter saw my sister's face, she pointed and burst into laughter.
Yesterday, when Mommy was out, she came over. Daddy played piggy with her the whole time and didn't play with me. It's been like this lately. Daddy only plays with her.
My blood ran cold. So, Robert had pushed me aside and engaged in an affair with my sister while I was away. I had thought he was a good husband, a good father, but it turned out I'd been betrayed all along. I glared at my sister. She looked momentarily startled but pretended not to hear, attempting to continue the ceremony. However, her plan backfired. One of the attendees, who had heard my daughter's words, loudly chimed in.
Both my friend and I have had our boyfriends stolen by her.
Presumably, she was one of my sister's friends. Perhaps she had also recently reconciled after being apologized to? Maybe that triggered the localized buzz, which now spread throughout the entire venue. Whispers erupted from various corners.
A pig?
Did she say oink oink?
My sister finally couldn't bear it any longer. She tore off her veil and slammed it onto the floor.
What nonsense! Obviously, that's a lie. Who would have an affair with such an ugly, unremarkable man? Especially my sisters?
Her words irked me, and I couldn't help but retort. A leopard cannot change its spots. You've always been mean to me, and your apology was just a ploy to steal Robert. Well, I won't be fooled anymore. I'll investigate thoroughly and take appropriate action. My sister shouted back.
How dare you?
Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a disdainful voice murmured.
A pig shouldn't have a wedding.
Everyone except the bride and groom's relatives burst into laughter. The venue staff tried to regain control, but it was too late. My sister finally lost it. She tossed her disheveled hair, lifted the hem of her long wedding dress, and ran away, shouting,
Remember this.
And just like that, she fled. A few days later, as promised, I gathered evidence of the affair and successfully divorced Robert. Naturally, I demanded compensation from both Robert and my sister. Robert paid a lump sum for child support as well. My sister, due to the cancelled wedding, faced additional compensation claims. Despite having a decent career, She lost her job due to the scandal. Now, she barely scrapes by with temporary work, her once prized beauty fading. I can't find any sympathy for her. Meanwhile, news of Robert's affair leaked somehow, becoming a topic at his workplace. Whispers and direct comments like, "Aren't you with the pig today?" followed him. His expected promotion was revoked, and he was removed from the project he'd been involved in. Reduced to menial tasks, he's now being encouraged to resign voluntarily. Afterward, my daughter and I returned to my family home. My parents were furious with my sister, and on the day the wedding was cancelled, they officially cut ties with her. In a way, our family home became the safest place for us. I regret that my daughter lost her father due to my sister's actions, but being raised by such a betrayer would likely have negative consequences in the long run. Now that my daughter doesn't have her father around, I need to step up and do my best. I'm determined not to inconvenience my daughter. With the unwavering support of my parents, I found a new job and started over in a new environment.
How did you find this story? If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing to our channel. Until next time.